Being a conscript in the Russian military is an absolutely brutal existence, and more leaked videos have revealed just what that life is like. We are going to take a look at some of the leaked footage and videos to understand just what it means to be a Russian conscript and why they're treated just so badly. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's get into it. Okay, so this is kind of a compilation of all these videos have come out in the last maybe week or so, and they really give us a look into the kind of bleak existence of the Russian armed forces. This is reportedly a Russian conscript being forced to sign a contract with the Russian Defense Ministry. And for context, guys, the way this works in Russia is that there are conscripts, and there's a mandatory military service that Russia requires. It's all military-age men to go through, but there's big loopholes so that none of the children of middle-class or upper-middle-class Russians ever really have to serve. They all find ways out of it. But for poor Russians, this is a requirement. And Russia loves it because it produces a pool of somewhat trained men capable of fighting. But here there's a catch. You see, by law, Russian conscripts cannot fight overseas. They can only fight in defense of Russian sovereign territory. Therefore, conscripts technically aren't supposed to fight in Ukraine. But in order to get around this, you can turn those conscripts at the end of their conscription period. You can turn them into contract soldiers. These are soldiers who sign a contract with the Russian MOD, volunteering for service in Ukraine, transitioning them from conscript to contract soldier. And once they do that, then they can be sent anywhere Russia wants. The problem is, of course, well, signing a contract in a country with no independent judiciary means that as long as you can get the ink warm, you can send the person over. This video is purportedly one Russian conscript negotiating the details of his contract. You can see this is a classic conscript's bunk setup. You can see all these double bunks. It looks like the bay in any basic training. Looks like even the one I went through in like 2006. So shout out to this one dude filming. Nothing is more peak 2024 than seeing something crazy go down and you pull out your phone and start filming it. God forbid you intervene. Interesting. This guy is actually in it looks like he has him in a guillotine, a jiu-jitsu technique in which you try to choke the person out via a sort of front headlock. And you can see this looks like a commander with a red beret. I think classically the red berets are a VDV, an Russian Airborne Corps member. But it almost looks like there's somebody just trying to sleep in the top bunk. So this guy here is clearly attacking one person. They're trying to kick away the instructor. Finally, somebody else intervenes and goes, okay, let's chill. Now, I believe this patch here with the sword and the two eagles, I think this might be Russian airborne troopers. They could be some sort of airborne, assigned to an airborne unit. Okay, so someone has arrived with handcuffs and has peeled him off of the person he was initially sort of attacking. It looks like they're planning to maybe handcuff him to the bed. This is funny. This is another jiu-jitsu move, the shoulder pressure. If you've ever been underneath it, it sucks. Oh, interesting. You notice this soldier here has the armband of a military police soldier. So it implies that he's Russian MPs. So likely, I think there might be more to this story than is at first acknowledged.
Надел браслет.
Бля, что творится? Ебаный рот.
Okay, they've got one hand handcuffed, but now they got to get the other one behind his back. Oh, you can see bunk's falling apart here. Classic.
Как в клубе со спецназом. Еще в клубе я в тебя работу давно люблю. Дурак совсем. Опа, нихуя себе.
Yeah, there he is. He got this shoulder patch. Says, B. I don't know Cyrillic. But that's considered pretty typical in armed forces to denote military police soldiers or soldiers on some kind of policing patrol. Oh, look at that. He's got him in a Kimura. Yeah, this is someone with probably basic jiu-jitsu, or in Russia they would probably think of it as Sambo. Sambo's a very, very similar Russian martial art. Actually, it predates Army combatives, but looks a lot like it in the sense that there is a structured grappling, heavy, protocolized martial arts system, unarmed combat system designed for the armed forces that also has a huge sporting component.
Понимаешь, что вас статья привлекут? 286.
I mean, this guy's number one mistake was trying to just fight this dude on his bed. You gotta keep running. Nope, he charged up. He's still fighting. Looks like more MPs are arriving. You see the duty belt? What happens once they get him contained? All right, they're getting this guy contained. Still trying to use guard or whatever. Respect to the one dude just sitting there chilling, and respect to this dude filming. Now, it's possible, again, that sometimes in like prison environments, it's actually common when you have to do what's called sometimes a forced cell extraction. This is someone who barricades themselves in their cell, likely in response or some sort of protest measure, that they'll actually film it. And that's to prevent lawsuits of cruelty or whatever. And so they'll film the entry team. As the entry team enters, they'll record them detaining the subject. They'll record them, restraining the subject. And this is all to make sure that the context is fully included. And so that could be what this person was assigned to do. The MP team could have said, listen, I want you to film this so that this individual can't protest later. He can't say that we were forced. Again, that implies the existence of some kind of dispute adjudication process, but there may not actually be that. Again, this is Russia, and generally the level of corruption is such that there really isn't independent dispute resolution. Nope, knee on the neck. Ah, shower shoes. Damn. All right. This dude's just helping out. Shit. All right. That was a production. And I think it's an illustration of the fact that, as some of the comments say, morale is high. Again, a no context incident like this, I don't know if this is necessarily a part of hazing. I don't know if it's a part of actually signing this contract. But what is, I think the takeaway is that, one, you've got very low morale. You've got a lot of these conscripts who do not want to be there. And this is just emblematic of sort of the Russian armed forces. Now, if you're interested in seeing the combat or the questionable combat skills, we actually just took a look at a video in which I don't even want to spoil it, but a Russian soldier threw an item that he thought was a grenade, but was actually much, much larger into a house. And And I can't show you it, but it's on Combat Vet News for members. If you guys want to support what I do, you guys know that YouTube basically won't let me show any footage of the war or a destroyed building or anything on here. And sponsors don't really want to touch me, right? It's an election year, and uncomfortable topics are sometimes sort of repressed a little bit. So I depend on you guys to keep me able to do this. So if you want, help me out, become a member of combatvetnews.com. The link is in the description. Specialist tier gets you access to the twice a week viral combat footage that we do a deep dive analysis on. But if you want more, Lieutenant tier gets you access to that, plus the weekly Q&As. You can submit a question and say, hey, I have a question about your service or about the war that I want answered, right? Those videos are exclusively for Lieutenant tier and above, and you get a shout out. And if you want the by name shout outs and to be a true dyed-in-the-wool supporter of this channel, Colonel tier. That gets you the by name shout outs and access to all the other tiers. So check it out. combatvetnews.com. Link is in the description. Okay. So now I want you to show you guys who exactly ends up as these conscripts, right? Here are 3 Russian troops detained by the Ukrainians, right? Now, and it appears, one, these guys are all looking rough. These guys all look like they're in their 40s, maybe even early 50s. They look worse for wear, but interestingly enough, all these crooked noses, these look healed. These don't look like recent injuries. So that implies that either these guys were like somehow in prison or were beaten as part of their earlier service, something. And now they are out here, again, sort of recruited into this Russian military and forced to fight. Right. And, you know, we've talked about the fact that according to some leaked Pentagon documents, the age distribution of Russia's soldiers is actually perfectly even. We think of 18-year-olds as being conscripts and that the average age of a Russian fighter in this war would be like 20 years old. But in fact, Russia has had a lot more success recruiting men between 40 and 50. In fact, if you look at the distribution, you see as many people who are in their 40s as you do Russian soldiers in their 20s in this conflict, which says that, you know, Russia's looking at everybody who had any military training, right? So somebody who went through the conscription process in the Soviet era in the 90s or early 2000s, all the way to somebody who is fresh out of their conscription training. And it's a sign basically of frankly desperation. But let's talk about the gear, right? You're a Russian conscript. We saw that bed fall apart. But surely the Russian combat gear is going to be much, much better, right, guys? Bros? Russia bros? Hey, here's a Russian soldier examining his recently issued plate carrier. You can see it looks nice. It's got some molly pads. Looks like it might even be made of Kevlar. Now there's the ballistic plate, right? The ballistic plate's the most important part. It's the thing that stops the bullet. Bullet bad. Bullet in person bad. But luckily, with a nice ceramic plate. And by the way, guys, these ceramic plates are not cheap to make, but they can be made with as little as just some treated steel. In fact, if you wanted, you could go and look up, let's see. Let's see if we can find some level 4 plates on Alibaba. Products. Ballistic plate. All right. Here we go. You can go on Alibaba. Pick yourself up, let's see. A ceramic armor plate. Minimum order 2 pieces, but it seems like it may actually work. Sold 18 of them. No, listen, I'm not recommending you spend $150 on cheap Alibaba strike plates, minimum order 2 pieces. This is 3A soft. We want the good stuff, hard, level 4. Let's see, level 4 here. Right? Level 4 here, 2 plates, $145. So we're not exactly talking about super high-end, unaffordable stuff. We're talking about, again, like $200 if you order 2 of them on Alibaba. Okay. So, and look at all this sweet gear they sell. Tons of cool swag. In fact, they even sell Russian gear. Oh, they have it in Russian. That tells you something. So, again, I point this out so you guys understand that this is not... Oh, here we go. Here's some of the stuff they make. Tactical uniform, personal protective vest. Look at that bad boy. That's looking good. This is solid looking stuff here. In fact, it looks very familiar, frankly. But the takeaway from this should be pretty simple. And that is that it's not unaffordable for a country as wealthy as Russia to pick up some of these high-level protective plates. But of course, Russia's cheap and lives are cheap. So when this dude opens up his Alibaba grade plate, they have, that's right, somebody pulled out the plate, resold it, and stuck in pieces of wood. The fact these are screwed on here means it wasn't put in there by the manufacturer. Instead, I think this was actually put in here by an officer. Someone corrupt in the Russian military realized that these plates are likely worth a lot of money on the black market. They might even be worth more in Russia than they are on old AliExpress. Therefore, you just pull them out and you make, 400 big ones, 250 big ones. That's a lot of money if you're a Russian. And you stick it to those conscripts.
От деревянных пуль защищает.
Ну да,
Деревянными пулями будет или с рогатки.
Я думаю, что такое легкое,
твою. И здесь надо показать.
Funny thing is, it's pretty obvious that that's not that's not even the right shape. Like you should pick up that vest and feel that it's not a ballistic plate. Okay, so you go into combat with absolute garbage gear. After you're sort of coerced into it. But what happens if you tell them no? You don't have a right to this. The answer is you go to the punishment pit. No, for real. Look at this. This is a Russian punishment pit. You can see there's some water in there, so it implies that there's at least a person. And according to some reports, Russians are held in pits and cellars for refusing to fight. And this is awful for a bunch of reasons. It's extremely cold in these pits. One, you might notice there's nowhere to defecate or urinate. And most importantly, if it rains, that just fills up with water. In addition to the fact these pits are so deep that if that ground gets kind of soaked and soiled, there's a pretty good chance it'll just collapse. So if you are a Russian soldier who screws up, you are going to end up locked up in one of these. Right? And this can be for as little as refusing to fight. To say, hey, listen, I'm going to die if you send me into Volchansk. They don't care. And as we know, casualties in Volchansk through the roof. At least a Russian airborne brigade's been taken out, and this is about 2,000 soldiers there. And that was like 2 weeks ago. So since then, there's probably been even more losses. So I want you guys to understand this because, a lot of people hem and haw and draw this false equivalence between Russia and everybody else. But the fact is that, Russia generates 30,000 troops a month, no doubt about it. But the methods by which they do so, the fact that they need to keep these troops fighting when it's so obviously a one-way ticket, means they have to really pull out all the stops. So anyway, guys, that's all I had. I think this is an important discussion, important reality for people to see. So if you want to support me, check it out, Combat Vet News. Huge thank you to our Colonel tier members, James Jerling, Steve Moran, Douglas Beck, Alan Knudsen, Bastian Himmerling, and Yanko Georgiev, as well as all the Lieutenant tier folks. You guys really are the ones who enable me to do this every single day. I appreciate you so much, and we'll see you over there. Cheers.